All right, hello everyone. It is, what is it, Thursday, February 25th. We have reached our last session of this month, and this afternoon's discussion will cover a number of different topics. We will get into some of the technology and software that is used and is in the common process of getting your music working in the game. We're going to talk about the process of implementation, which is getting your music functioning and working properly and interacting with the gameplay as it is needed to be set up. We are going to talk about audio middleware and game engines as the main set of tools for implementation of your music, and we'll talk about what all that means. And then in the second half of our session, we'll switch over to getting started in the game industry. Some of the resources and tools and things that are good things to have, good processes. How do you find work? How do you find clients? How do you find employers? How do you basically take everything that you've learned throughout this month and the projects that you've worked on and put them in the best light when getting started in the industry? So that's an overview of the direction that we will head for our session right now. Question here in the chat, Edward: is Maya a tool that should be learned for implementing audio? It's not one of the main generic tools. It's certainly much more of an artist platform for visual graphics, 3D animation, well, mainly animation, 3D models. And every once in a while, it depends on the game project. Excuse me. But where Maya can be used for audio, when you're actually attaching sounds to animations, it does have the capability of doing that. So that can be possible. I've also known it to be used when the game world or level is built in Maya, and then every once in a while people will go in there and place sounds in that regard. But it is much, much more common to use game engines for that process, and also audio middleware, because even then Maya has to, or the thing that you create in Maya has to be exported out and put into a game engine. There's often a lot more control. So not a very common approach, but now for the 3D model and animator side of it, it's kind of like their Pro Tools or Logic, where it's their main tool that they use to create all of the assets that then gets put into the game at a later time. So, our first topic here is going to be explaining what implementation is and what it does for us. And there is often, or can be, a job of audio implementer or music implementer. And implementation, I like to relate it over to a process that we're already familiar with, which is mixing music. And in a very kind of loose general relation, we can kind of compare the two processes in that when you are creating music for an album, and let's go on the kind of the biggest scale where you've got studio time, and you've got maybe different recording engineers, mixing engineers. The producer is separate from the artist and the band, and there's a whole team of folks working together to get the project completed. So when you're creating your song for your next album, there's a recording process and there's a mixing process. And in the process of recording, during a recording session, your main focus is on the performance, on the instrumentation, the microphones, getting the best recording of the best performance down to tape or to your DAW or whatever the the medium is. So you are creating the music, you're creating the raw tracks, the elements that is then going to be mixed. And the mixing process is taking material that's already been created and enhancing it, doing something to it to eventually create either a stereo or a 5.1 surround mix of everything. So you're taking hundreds of tracks and you're using volume and pan and EQ and compression and reverbs and delays and effects processing. You're using automation and you're changing the mix over time through the entire song, and you're perfecting it to get the best sound that you can. Certainly, there is also a mastering process, which is the kind of taking multiple tracks and putting them together into a full album. But mixing is not just one thing. It's not just one tool. There's just not one piece of software that everybody uses to mix. Mixing is a process. It's a workflow. It's a series of steps and techniques and tips and tricks and using hardware and software and getting the best final result of taking lots and lots of different pieces of music and putting them all together into the final thing that is heard. And so, in a very loose sort of way, we'll relate that to implementation, where implementation is the process of getting your music into the game. It is setting up the interactive behavior of how things are supposed to work in the game. So the music has already been created, and then you are, again, doing something to it to set it up so that the game can interact with the music and the music interacts with the game. It is setting it up so that certain things play at certain times, files loop when they need to, things can crossfade and fade in and out. They can maybe be in sync in beat or on beat. And there's certainly, again, it's not just one thing, it's a whole series of steps and workflow and process and software. There's not just one piece of software, but there's lots of different tools in your toolbox to get the final thing done. So here in the chat is implementing a way of mixing audio and music in the game, or rather, can it be a way that we mix audio in our game? Yeah, it's mixing of your music, the actual moving of faders and pans and adding effects processing is a part of the overall process of implementation, but there's much more of the interactive nature of games where the player does something on the controller and it changes how the music reacts, and then the music changes and that affects how the player hits buttons on their controller, and it's kind of this kind of feedback loop as it goes around and around. So mixing is part of that, but it's also setting up all of the interactive elements that happens of when a sound plays and why it plays and how it plays and what does it play with anything else, and does it loop and does it mix, and so there can be lots of different elements. Jason, it's taking the finalized audio files and putting them into the game ready to be triggered. Yes. One of the common terms for how your music plays is it is triggered by a certain action in the game. Whether the player triggers that action or does that action, or whether it's just by walking through a door or to a new location. There's lots of different ways that the music is triggered to be played, and that is kind of part of the overall implementation process. Absolutely. Excuse me. So, we know this world. This is the world of the DAW. This is the world of creating the music and the production of the music. And so as music composers, as the audio creators, we're kind of masters of this domain. And over here, this is the game, and we know what is supposed to happen with the music. We know that in 2D platformer, there is intro cues that are 2 bars long. There are main loop cues that are 8 bars long, and they randomly switch around over the course of the game. And then if you lose all of your health, then it switches over to the ending cues. And so generally we know this process of what is supposed to happen in the game with our music. But it's this process in the middle of how do we jump the gap from the raw wave files in a folder to actually having it working in the game so that when the player plays the game, the correct piece of music is heard. And so that is the process of implementation, is getting the interactive behavior set up for your music so that we know how things randomize, we know how things loop, we know how things transition from one to the next, we know how the overall mix is changes according to where we are located in the game world. There's all sorts of things that can happen with our music and sound effects. So implementation is setting up that behavior and setting up things to sound correctly in the game. And so it utilizes a series of tools to set all of this behavior up and get it working and interacting with the game itself. Because way long time ago, at the beginning of audio for video games, the only way that music was actually heard in the game was that it was hard coded. It was programmed into the game. It was originally it was all synthesis, what lovingly term is bleeps and bloops, and it is was that you found a programmer that could actually write some music and or the other way around, hopefully. But it was very obvious very quickly that your programmer probably wasn't going to write your best music, and your musician probably wasn't going to write your best code. And so there were a series of tools that were developed to help this process, and that is what we know today as middleware. And middleware is software in the middle between you as the artist with all of your WAV files and the code. Yes, everything that could be done with your music in the game of when it plays and how long it plays and how does it loop and how does it mix, all of that could be done strictly from code. But that's not the way we want to approach it. We, as the music composers, are not wanting to dive into the code, so there is software in the middle of this process to help get our raw WAV file assets to interact properly with the game. And middleware isn't just for audio. Now, of course, that's what we're going to be talking about. But there is also middleware for graphics and animation and motion capture and networking and artificial intelligence and physics and all sorts of different aspects of the game process for helping on what they're basically doing is all of those are artists. The visual folks, the people doing the animations, they don't necessarily know code as much as the audio and music folks don't know code. And so, and the programmers can't draw you a picture or write you a song. So how do you bridge the gap for all of this to make this work together? So audio middleware is going to give us a set of graphic tools that we can take all of our audio and use these tools to set up interactive behaviors that would take a coder or programmer to do otherwise. So the two most popular audio middleware packages out there are called Fmod and Wwise. And if you look at a lot of game jobs, often they ask for some experience or some knowledge of audio middleware tools because just writing the music isn't the entire picture. It's how does it work together with all of this software to make it function. So when I talk about audio middleware, I like to relate it again to something we already know from music and audio, and that is a plugin. Audio middleware, again, in a very loose, bad, generic connection here, but audio middleware can be thought of as a plugin for your game engine or for your game. So just like your DAW, your game could probably do 80% of everything that you want. Actually, it could do 100% of everything that you needed to do for your game. Just in the same way that your DAW could do 100% of everything that you need for your album. But of course, there's tons of great reasons that we buy and use plugins. Plugins for your DAW. You buy reverbs and EQs and samplers and new synths and And those plugins, they sound better, they sound cooler, they do newer and better things. They make the job easier, faster, or more efficient. And so there's tons of reasons that you buy plugins. Yes, you could probably do most of everything that you wanted for your album in just your DAW, but you could make it even better with all these extra plugins. Well, same sort of idea with audio middleware. Yes, you could probably do almost everything that you need with audio in your base game, but your audio middleware is going to allow you to do it faster or better or cheaper, or it's going to sound cooler, or there's lots of different possibilities when using these types of software. So it comes in two flavors overall, both Fmod and Wise, software tools and a code library. Like I said, it's bridging the gap between all of your assets, all of your actual creative material, your WAV files, and the code. And so it comes with some code, so all the programmers can hook it all up and make it work in the game. And then it gives you a set of software tools that look sort of like your DAW to get it actually functioning in the game. So we'll take a look here in just a minute of Fmod and Wise and how they look and function. But just to give you a better idea of what middleware is actually doing for you, it creates all of your interactivity for your music. It allows you to transition between multiple musical themes and loops. How does the game know how to go from intro to main loop to ending, or how to switch between ambient and action? These are the types of things that currently, since our games aren't using Fmod and Wise, it's all hard programmed into the game. That's why you can't change anything or can't change in your file names, or else it's not going to work. But with middleware, it allows you to set all of this stuff up without code directly. It allows you as the music composer to set up a whole lot more complex interactive things because you don't have to explain it to anybody else to make them do it. So how do you want them to transition back and forth? Does it need to be in sync or on beat? Then you can set that sort of stuff up through your middleware. It gives you the ability to organize your massive amounts of WAV files in some way that makes sense for the game. Games are split out into different levels or different parts of the game, different menus and weapons and vehicles and monsters and soundtrack and all of the different parts. And so you need, by the end of a game, you can easily have thousands of tens of thousands or hundreds of thousands of WAV files that all need to be organized. Think about just the lines of dialogue in the 7 different languages that your game is going to be released in. That just takes up a massive amount of file space and just files. So you have to be able to organize them somehow. How do you tell a music file to loop? Yes, you created a WAV file that is set up to loop. And inside your DAW, you can turn on loop and it goes around and around. But how do you tell the game to do that? That can be done through middleware. Basically, it says when you reach the end of the file, then start again. Does it loop once? Does it loop 5 times? Does it loop infinitely? Does it loop until something happens and then stops looping? Develop a simple randomized stinger. We have 3 different stingers in the Angry Bots composition. How does it know how to switch between them? How does it know how many of them are? Does it play can it play the same one back to back, or does it actually randomize so that it never plays the same one twice? Real-time audio mixing and effects processing. A lot of what your game is doing in real time while the game is being played is figuring out which sounds are being played and how loud and where they are panned around you, even in 360 degrees. So the volume and panning that's going on in the game is constantly changing, especially when you get into first-person shooters and more complex advanced games where you're in a 3D environment and the whole world is operating around you. It also gives you an environment to test out and prototype things. It gives you tools that you can test this out before it actually goes to the game. So when you finish that awesome piece of music at 3 a.m. and you send some email off to the team, it's not going to be the next day or week or month before they actually put it into the game and you see the results. So it allows you to test things out. So a couple of ideas of implementation and kind of expanding on that list from the previous slide. Hold on just a sec. We're going to talk about variable mixing here. So, like I said, what a game is doing very, very quickly and often in the game is constantly figuring out what sounds are playing, where they are around you in the full 360 degrees, and how close they are and far away they are to determine the volume. So you have a volume and pan mix going on in real time, being adjusted by what the player is doing. And again, especially in a 3D world where everything is around you or surrounds you, it has to determine the exact location of each one of those sounds in relation to you or where your character is. So games will take the top 100 sounds around you. Not all games, and they'll all depend on what the type of games, but a general idea might be that it takes the top 100 sounds around you. Whether it's based on how close they are or how important they are. There's some of these games have a priority system where it says, I really need you to hear this sound, so no matter what else is happening, play this sound. And don't play the less important sounds like maybe footsteps after a while. So it takes the top 100 sounds around you and figures out how close and far they are and how loud they are related to their distance away from you. And then it determines the pan where you are looking straight forward and where that sound emanates from in 360 degrees around you. And it does that at every single frame of the game. If your game is running at 30 frames per second, it does that 30 times per second and constantly changes that to give you the real-time mix that you hear, so that as you go closer and farther away from things, it adjusts exactly how you hear things. Variable volume and dynamics. So first thing it gave you was volume and pan. And this one is talking about dynamics processors, controlling volume with compressors and limiters. So one of the biggest challenges in games is that, well, at least in the mixing of games, is that you don't know what's going to happen, right? If it's a cutscene and it's just a movie playing, then you have perfect idea of what's going to happen. But when the player has control, especially in a multiplayer game, when people are running around with guns and rocket launchers and laser guns and whatnot, bombs are going off around you, vehicles are driving by or flying over, or monsters all around, or zombies, or whatever it is, there can be a lot of different sounds happening. So you maybe for a particular part of the game, it's really kind of quiet and you're just exploring around and you hear footsteps and breathing and the rattling of foley of all your gear. And then you turn a corner and there's 15 players all in the same room and they're launching grenades off at all the same time. So how's the audio person going to know this will happen and control the difference between that loudness? And the way that's often done is through the use of compressors on different groups of sounds. So what you see here is like a bus structure of different groups of sound effects and how they might flow. It's actually dialogue, sound effects, and music. So up here you have the main output, and that's the direct output of your PlayStation or your Xbox or whatever it is. And right before that, they often have a limiter that says no matter how crazy loud this game is going to get, no louder than this value. And PlayStation and Xbox, Microsoft, Sony, and Nintendo all have standards and specs for loudness of their games, just like the FCC has broadcast standards. The master bus, that's the final thing that feeds everything, and that is a combination of dialogue, sound effects, and music. Maybe there's a compressor across each one of those buses, so if it gets too loud, or this is often for side chaining. You can see these arrows pointing in for side chaining, where dialogue is often considered the most important element, especially if it's story dialogue, player dialogue, where you need to hear that sound always. It can actually sidechain compress or reduce the volume of some of these other sound effects. So you have even the dialogue split out to critical dialogue, non-critical dialogue. They each might have a compressor that is controlled by the critical dialogue. Music is, it's not going, the game isn't going to fundamentally remix your music, but it might add just a little bit of volume control to control the whole stereo mix of your music when compared to all of the other sounds. Sound effects here. Obviously, those would be split out into lots of different categories: weapons, ambiences, vehicles, real-world objects, explosions. Explosions has its own limiter because that could get crazy loud. Vehicles have their own limiter. Engines, skids, vehicle impacts, weapons, player weapons, non-player weapons. They're just all sorts of different combinations. And by using dynamics processors, you might be able to control the whole thing. Variable DSP and timbre. So if we have volume, we have pan, we have compressors and limiters. We also have real-time DSP, like filters and reverbs and delays and distortions, flangers, phasers, all sorts of different things. So they are not of the quality that you will find in your DAW. They're actually very they are limited in their resources. They are actually pretty much a resource hog when compared to the rest of the game and running in a game. But if you would compare that to like Space Designer or something, it would be a really small, efficient reverb. So it just has to do so much and change in real time and not have any sort of artifacts or any things that you might hear with a reverb changing or EQ changing. Third-party plugins are becoming popular more and more so as the technology increases, where external plugin manufacturers are actually building their plugins for game consoles. It does use massive CPU resources when compared to the rest of the game, but it's not like it's going to give you all of your sound effects that you might use for sound design. It's not like you're going to put a raw sine wave in there and get an explosion on the other end, or it's not like you're going to put not so powerful explosion through there and all of a sudden get an amazing explosion on the other end. So it's still, most of the sound design is done in your DAW. Your real-time DSP in your game is more for effect, environmental effect of, hey, you're in a small wood hallway, or now you're in a big metal airplane hangar, or now you're outside or inside, or whatever it is. Edward, don't you have to pay a licensing fee to use third-party plugins in Fmod and Wise? Yes, most of them are licensed separately, just like plugins are bought separately. The licensing for games is different than buying a plugin for your DAW because you buy it and it's yours and you own it. But licensing allows you to put it into a game that other people are buying, and then it's not like they own the plugin, but that game gets the ability to use that plugin. But it's a separate cost involved in all of that. And a lot of times, I wouldn't say a lot of times. Sometimes you can get the plugin to just use while you're developing, and then once you actually release the game, then it's viable. Then you actually have to buy it. But while you're developing, it is available. So some of those third-party developers, Waves, got involved with the Xbox 360. This now goes on, I believe, goes on to Xbox One and PlayStation 4. So Waves and Wave Arts. Waves kind of started a lot of this stuff with Halo 3. they created Waves Xbox versions of the C4 compressor, the Q10 EQ, the Renaissance Reverb, and some of their other plugins. And so the developers could just go into their favorite DAW and load up their Waves plugins, set it accordingly, and save a preset, and then dump it into the Xbox, and it's used in real time with the game or the gameplay. Make DSP, Isotope, making plugins that work directly with Fmod and Wise. And so the next thing beyond plugins is a lot of these DAWs, especially Wise, is really getting into synthesis, where you have a synthesizer directly in your game engine or your audio middleware, and they are doing things like they're synthesizing. There's a plugin manufacturer that makes synthesized weather effects and a car engine and what was the other one? Metal swords and spears and shields, impacts, metal impacts. So instead of having thousands and thousands of sword and shield sounds all the way through your game, they can just randomly generate them as they're needed to give a very similar effect. So let's talk about specific middleware. Fmod Studio. Fmod is out there and a great product. Let's see here. I was loading these up here. The great part about this is that all of these software are free to download and check out. So you should definitely go to Fmod and you go to download. And you want the Macintosh version. That's this. Kind of what it looks like. Of course, it would have a whole lot more stuff. Down here is the low-level programmers API. This is what you probably don't want to mess with. This is all of the code. You open this up, it's a whole bunch of text files representing all the code side, but a programmer would take that stuff. Here's the audio weather, audio motors, make DSP mastering limiter. Can work with Unity and the Unreal Engine. So I highly suggest that you check that out. Question here is, do they have a way of, what does it say? Resources to learn software like Unity has? Yes. There's official training and all this stuff. Fmod tutorials on YouTube. Steven Schutz has done some very cool stuff as their kind of educator, Fmod Studio. So yeah, there's all sorts of resources, both Fmod and Wise. So where'd that go here? It's made by Firelight Technologies. They're based out of Australia. And here's one of the main reasons that you use something like Fmod, is that it works on Xbox One, PlayStation 4, Wii U, Mac, PC, iOS, Android, all sorts of different platforms. Get my face in there. All sorts of different platforms, and you set up all of your audio once, and then you push one button, and then it goes out for Xbox One, and another button, and it goes out for PlayStation 4, and so on. That is a horrible, horrible oversimplification. It is not just one button that you just hit, and it just magically sets everything up, but understand that Xbox speaks a different audio language than PlayStation 4, Wii, Mac, PC, all of them. Because they're all proprietary systems, used to have to basically redo all of your audio. Not like you wouldn't have to recreate your sound effects, recreate your WAV files, but how the compression and the file format of an Xbox versus a PlayStation was different. And so these tools allow you to bridge that gap and set up your audio once and then use it on multiple different platforms. So the thing to notice with all of these pictures here is that it kind of sort of looks like a DAW. It's not beyond the scope of an audio person to understand what's going on here. You have things that look like tracks, you have solos and mute buttons, you have faders, You have sliders and knobs, you have playlists, surround panner. This is like your bin or audio regions, your clip list or whatever. It's your organization for everything. So it's not. It's a set of tools that are buttons and knobs and menus, so that audio folks can understand and get their basic behavior of their music to work. Lots of different games out there use the Fmod system, Batman series, some of them. Uh, the World of Warcraft series, StarCraft series, they got some of that Blizzard money, so they're doing all right. The Batman and Bioshock series both have actually gone over to Wise. Fmod is really popular with racing games. I don't know if anybody has played Just Cause 3 recently. It's a pretty new game made with Fmod. A lot of racing games because it has some really good car engines. If anybody played Transistor, that's a great game. That was all used with Fmod. Forza, Drive Club. See some of the racing games. I wanted to see what's this. What did it say? Adaptive music. I saw it somewhere. There we go. Tutorials series now on YouTube. Well, look at that. Adaptive music and Fmod. That's a good resource. All right. So, quite popular. Fmod has been around for quite a long time. It's more established in the industry. But Wise, Audio Kinetics Wise, has been doing a lot of cool stuff, and a lot of folks are kind of shifting over in that direction also. So we saw Fmod Studio API, Fmod Studio. You would download Fmod Studio. That's this graphic environment that we're talking about. The Fmod Studio API. Those are all of the text files, the code itself, and that's what the programmers use to make all of this stuff work with the game. The main competitor to Fmod these days is Wise. So they're based out of Canada. Well, actually, it's developed by Audio Kinetic. That's the company that makes Wise. They are based out of Canada. And again, it's based all the different platforms: Xbox One, PlayStation 4, PC, Mac, Wii U, Android, iOS, HTML, all sorts of different platforms for games. So let's see here. Here's their website. They have a really cool page. Well, actually, let's do this. If you wanted to download it, you go to Get Wise, and you'd say, hey, I'd like to learn about Wise, or just check out the software. So you download it. And you would want to go to Mac over here. And this is what you want. Mac authoring, Mac OS X. Download the most recent version. There's some sample demo projects down here, which can get you some more information on how it works. But they have a really good clients page somewhere. Where are they? Support? No, not support. I always do that. Not there. Resources, community, customers. Showing off all the different games that actually use Wise. And you've probably played some of these because there's so many of them. Alien series, Alone in the Dark, the Assassin's Creed series. Assassin's Creed, the Batman series moved over to Wise. The Bioshock series moved over to Wise. The Borderlands series. Where'd that go? Borderlands. Child of Light, Depth, that's the game I'm working on. We use the Unreal Engine and Wise together. Destiny, which is an extremely popular game right now. What else? Devil May Cry, Fable games, racing games, Lego games, Killer Instinct, Limbo. If you have a PC, there's actually a version of Limbo that is works with Wise that you can manipulate, which is a very cool way of learning how Wise works. The new Metal Gear game, Phantom Pain. Shadows of Mordor was pretty popular recently. The Peggle games, Rocket League, Saints Row. I don't know. South Park game. All sorts of stuff. So, the Witcher game that's been popular these days. So, tons and tons of game projects out there utilizing Wise. Let's see. Borderlands 2 uses Wise. Yep, was just playing that. No Mac version. Yeah, there's a Mac. Oh, you mean for Wise? Yes, there's a Mac version of Wise. Oh, for the Limbo game. No, unfortunately, it's not for Mac. I would be very, very happy with that, and that might actually be one of our projects if we could get that, but not available. So, what else? Here's a whole bunch of games, but a lot of these are even outdated. We got a much better page there. Here's the Wise Designer. This is what it looks like. And again, it's a tool that is not beyond the possibility for an audio person to learn. It's got a transport down here. It's got things that look like crossfades. You've got sliders. You've got a way of organizing everything. This looks like a mixer. You've got solos and mutes and places to place inserts. You've got a busing structure of all your files. You've got a surround panner. There's just things that are very common in lots of different audio software. And yes, there's certainly a learning curve and understanding how it all works together with games, but getting access to projects that you can tweak and mess around with is always a good way of getting involved. So it allows you to implement complicated actions without coding. All of the stuff that you're doing in here generates data that the code uses to understand what to do with your audio. How loud do you want that sound, or how do you want it bussed or mixed with everything else? All of that is basically on the other end. It spits out code and all of your audio files in something called a sound bank. A sound bank is like one file that contains all of the audio data, and it's often encrypted so nobody else can like mess or steal with the audio information. And it spits out all of the data. That's the mix and the sounds and how they are all set up for the game. And then that information is used by the game to actually build the overall mix while the game is played. All right. Our next topic here, we're going to get into game engines. And where I said that audio middleware is like a plugin for your game, where if audio middleware is like a plugin, then your game engine is like your DAW itself, which is the main tool that you use to, your DAW is the main tool that you use to build your music, and your game engine is the main tool that you use to build your game. So we'll be talking about the Unreal Engine and the Unity Engine, which are two very popular tools these days to make games. So we'll talk about what a game engine is doing for you. Let me just take another quick pause here before we get started. All right. So, your game engine is giving you a set of tools that can be used to build a game, right? Just in the same way that you use your toolbox to build some woodworking project or It's not this easy, but you use your toolbox to build your house. The game engine is your tools to build your game, right? There are game engines, there's kind of two paths of going about this. One is to build your own game engine, and a lot of the major big companies build their own tools so that their games do things that no other game does. And this is very common at the largest level where they have been developing either the same game for many years or the same type of game. And they have developed a series of tools or software that only you have access to at that game studio. They own their own proprietary technology. It's like going to a recording studio and them having their own version of Pro Tools that they invented. And this is common in the game industry because your game has to be custom and unique to what you want it to do. So there are some companies that create their own tools, and there are companies that create tools that they sell to other folks. And there are game developers, there are a lot of game developers out there that don't want to build their own game engine from scratch because they don't want to reinvent the wheel. They don't want to have to figure out how to draw a pixel on the screen or how a mouse or a keyboard interacts with your computer or how to save a file to a hard drive. There are tools that exist out there that combine all of that stuff together. It's like, again, if I'm trying to build my house, I don't want to reinvent the concept of what a hammer is or a nail. That already exists. I just go to a store and buy a hammer and I use that to build my house. So a game engine the popular game engine tools out there are developed by companies that sell them to other companies. And those companies, all they want to do is make a game and tell a story. They want to draw a cool world and create characters and tell a story overall. They don't want to have to reinvent the technology that drives all of that. So a game engine is like your DAW, and it's not just for audio. Your game engine does everything for all aspects of your game. So when working on a music album, there's probably like 10 people involved, less than 10 people involved in the production of an album. And that's just like in the studio. Of course, it depends on how big your band is and all that. But if you count the artist as one person or the band as one person, you got like you've got recording engineers, mixing engineer, maybe some assistants, some producer, and then the band, right? That doesn't count the whole like record label side and legal side. I'm just talking about the artist production team, the people that are involved in the creation of the album. And if there's less than 10 people on a team, there's probably less than 5 of those people that are actually getting their hands on the DAW session and doing anything. So, but everybody has to agree that you're going to work in Pro Tools or Logic, and it makes sense to for everybody to use those tools. But in a game, on a game team, you can easily have 5 or 10 or 20 or 50 or 100 or 1,000 people all working on the same game, right? Grand Theft Auto was like 3,000 people working across 7 different game companies. Call of Duty is close to that with all the teams between Sledgehammer Games and Treyarch and the Black Ops series and the regular Call of Duty series. It just goes back and forth of lots and lots of people, and they all have to be using the same game engine because the game does everything for lots of different folks, right? A lot of what a game engine is doing is the graphics. Graphics are often what drives the technology in the game. Every year, the graphics seem to get better. A lot of what the game is actually, when it's rendering in real time, when the processor is chugging away, it's actually rendering the graphics because the graphics do not exist for a game until the game is played, right? It exists in little pieces and parts and some files, but the whole world that you play through doesn't really exist until the game is being played in real time. So a large chunk of what the tools do are for your graphics. Another part of it is the gameplay. Gameplay is how does the game actually play? Is it a racing game? Is it a fighting game? Is it a puzzle game? What type of game is it? How do you interact on the controller? What do all the buttons do? What's the story? What's the objectives? What are all the characters? It is the actual game itself. And so that is, of course, a large portion of what the game is doing. Is it's creating and allowing you to make all of the choices in the game. Networking, the fact that your computer or your game console, you can play a multiplayer game with some person across the world in basically real time. That is a huge technical feat, but it's already been created and developed. There's no reason for you to reinvent how the internet works or anything. So there are tools out there that allow computers to communicate back and forth and allow you to network multiplayer games. Physics and AI, this is the real math-heavy part of a game engine of the physics of or how things fall and blow up and how cloth moves or hair moves. AI is how characters or how smart they are or how dumb they are when you're interacting with the game world. That is a lot of math and science that's already been figured out, and it's always constantly being developed. But again, you don't need to reinvent how mass equals force times acceleration, or no? What is it? The different how the different fundamentals properties of physics. All of that has been created and figured out in the game. And then for right or for wrong, there's kind of a little sliver up here for audio. And that's because the game isn't really doing all of that much with the audio. It's playing the audio, but it's not creating the audio or generating or composing the music in real time. All of the real hard work was done ahead of time. It was done by a human, a composer, creating the music. So really all your game is doing is making sure it's the right file, played at the right time, starting at the right time, ending at the right time, looping if it needs to, playing correctly with all of the other files in the game. But it's not fundamentally drawing every single image on the screen, or it's not certainly not composing the music in real time. So the game engine is mostly about bringing all of the files together and setting up the interactive behavior. So, a couple of very popular game engines out there. We'll start with the Unity engine, because all of our games this month are built with the Unity engine. If you play mobile games on your iPhone or Android device, then you probably have played some Unity game. It runs a lot of very popular games out there. And just like all of this other stuff, it is a freely available software. Here's the Unity game engine. You go to unity3d.com and go to Get Unity 5. And the personal edition is all you need, and that's the free version that you can download. And then you can go to the asset store. There's all sorts of games and game projects out there. Like if I go to Unity Essentials and I look through here, there's 2D Platformer. That's one of our games. Angry Bots is in here somewhere. Somewhere. But I wanted to check this one out. I was looking at this one. Is it just pretty, or is there something going on in it? Ooh, it is pretty though. Probably just empty. Time of day cycles, uses animated skybox, has full time of day, emissive geometry, about 100 animated spotlights come alive at night. Ooh, that'd be cool. But does it need music? So anyway, different projects that you can check out and use to implement your music and sound. You get complete access to all of the software and the game engine and all of the assets. Um, let's see. Unity Technologies. They're based out of San Francisco. Definitely popular on mobile and web platforms. While the mobile devices were taking off, Unity Engine kind of dominated this space because it was much cheaper overall. $1,500 to buy it out flat out, or $75 per month. They went to more of a kind of a Netflix based model for everything. So they have that monthly subscription fee that could be a little bit cheaper, but it is free for educational and non-commercial reasons. So that gives us wonderful access to it. Go to unity3d.com. You can play around, take apart the games that we made and worked with. Palaces of Renthalions on there, Angry Bots is on there, and 2D platformers on there. So you make your game once, and you can make it work for Xbox, PlayStation, PC, Mac, iOS, Android, HTML. It uses Fmod EX by default, which is an older, just code version of Fmod. It gives you all of the controls directly in the audio engine, but it can also integrate with Fmod Studio and Wise. So you do have the ability of using external audio middleware. The Unreal Engine is developed by Epic Games. They're based out of Cary, North Carolina. Has anybody ever played any of the Unreal games? Unreal 2, Unreal Tournament 2004, 2007, Unreal Tournament 3. Now they're making a new Unreal Tournament 2000, well, whenever it gets released, I guess. But Unreal Tournament has been a very popular game for many, many years and has always pushed the gaming technology. Epic Games also made Gears of War, which is still, they're making a new one. Well, Epic Games isn't. Microsoft Studios bought Gears of War, but they're still, a new one is in production. And Unreal Engine has been really, really popular for large format, large console games. It has always pushed the technology and is very, very impressive of what it's capable of doing. And they were very proud of it for a very long time. The original software cost over $1 million to work with. Now you can get it for a bargain basement price of $500,000. And that was actually the Unreal Engine 3. Unreal Engine 4 now has switched to, they went with an iTunes model for a little while where they wanted 25% of every dollar that you made, which was a whole lot of money. Or it could be. But then they went to only 5% royalties plus $19 a month. So it all depends. Here in the chat, that's an Unreal price. But it depends on how the company is looking at it, because the Batman series of games, the Batman games, they made the first Batman game for $40 million. It made $80 million back. So if they had the percentage of the original 25% when it was being released, then they would have spent, well, they would have had 25% of $80 million. They would have paid $20 million just to use the Unreal Engine. So out of, compare that to $500,000 or a couple of $1,000,000, then that's not so bad. But that just assumes that you are a massive company that already has millions of dollars to unload on your project. But that did not allow for any sort of indie developers to become to get access to the software. It's only the biggest companies. So that's where Unity kind of came from. Unity kind of filled that gap as mobile devices were being developed or were more popular, and all of a sudden you had a game company releasing a game for a mobile device. They had no money up front and were making all of a sudden millions upon millions of dollars to release it. or millions of dollars on the release of games, and Unreal wasn't getting any of that money. So they got to this particular platform. Here in the chat, is it free now? Yes, it's free for non-commercial reasons, but the commercial projects are the $19 a month or 5%, or you could probably negotiate some flat rate with them for who knows how much that is these days. So free for educational purposes, unrealengine.com/education gets you some access. I don't even think you need to do that anymore. You just need to go to unrealengine.com and get the free version. Xbox One, PlayStation 4, PC, Mac, iOS, Android, the web, all sorts of different platforms. It uses a version of Microsoft X Audio 2. And actually, they kind of gone away from this and built their own system. But it can also be implemented with Fmod Studio and Wise. So again, it allows you to give lots of access to lots of technology. I gotta go to the website here. So you go to Unreal, you say get Unreal, you download the application. Yes. Oh, I don't want to do that. Do I? Hold on. Fine. Hello? Is that not the right one? Which of my millions of passwords is it? Get Unreal. You download it. You learn. Oh, video tutorials. Gives you all this stuff to check out. There's an audio section in here somewhere. Or not. Audio. Ooh, plugins. Anyway. All sorts of different resources out there. You can find it on... you can find games once you load up the application. Let me do this. Epic. Load? What am I waiting for? Don't make me wait. Okay, fine. Never mind. So, lots of different resources out there. All of those tools are free. I would highly suggest you download the Unreal Engine, the Unity engine, the Wise software, the Fmod software, just to open them up, check them out. If nothing else, to go, wow, look at all that stuff, and then close it down and check YouTube. There's all sorts of tutorials on there of how things might all work together. So great tools to be familiar with. Our next topic here is going to be a multi-channel music in games. A short topic of just how multi-channel files are used in a gaming platform. And let me go ahead and take a quick pause before we get into this. I do see a question here. Do you need an integration package to use Fmod or Wise with the Unreal Engine like Unity? Yes. They both should have available Mac versions of the integration with Unity and Wise. Or Unity and the Unreal Engine. Absolutely. All right, hold on just a sec. I'll be right back. All right, so multi-channel music in games. We want to talk about how multi-channel files are used in games and kind of compare that of multi-channel in movies. When I talk about multi-channel files, I don't necessarily mean surround sound. Most of the time, when people think multi-channel music, they think surround sound, and that's because that's what most of the time, that's what everybody's talking about. Whether that's 5.1 surround sound or 7.1, those are two common formats. But I would even say that stereo is a multi-channel file format because there's multiple channels. It's more than one channel. It's not really what we are typically thinking about, but this conversation is different ways of thinking of different formats, channel formats. So we're going to talk about mono, stereo, and then multi-channel files and how they are all used in a game. The important thing to know is that games use all of these sometimes all at once. You will have mono files, stereo files, and surround files all playing together to create the surround mix that you hear. And the game can actually switch it back and forth in real time, where you can go into the menus and actually switch between mono and stereo and 5.1. So where you can have here in the chat, like the Halo grenade, you can have certain objects in the game send out stereo images and surround images of that sound all at the same time. So, starting out here with mono music. Mono music is not all that common. For many, many decades, we have switched to stereo music, and stereo music is still the standard and the most common format out there. Is one advantage of mono, which is it is the smallest file size, or at least when you go from 6-channel surround sound to 2-channel stereo to 1-channel mono, you are greatly reducing the overall file size. So maybe if you don't care about the stereo image and you think that everything's just going to be playing out of a mono speaker, that might be okay, and you might be able to get away with it in some mobile games. But most of the time, music is going to be stereo. Now, that's for music, but for sound effects, most of your sound effects in a game are mono files, just like most, or if not all, natural sounds in the natural world are mono sources. So when you hear a game and it's in surround and everything's flying around you in real time, then all of those sounds are mono sounds that, when played together, create the surround mix that you hear. And so, since all of the sounds, you have to be able to get closer or farther away from them. You have to be able to turn left and right or spin and go around the sound. Those need to be mono sounds so that they can be positioned in any speaker that they need to. If you have a stereo file, well, then you can't pan it back and forth. It already exists. There's already something for left and already something for right. Yes, you can pan within the stereo file, but after it's bounced, you can't do anything with that stereo file except for play it in left and right. Maybe you can pan it forward and backwards from left and right front to left and right surround, but most commonly you need a mono file. Even more than that, multi-channel files are not, you can't pan at all because they're already panned. There's something for left and center and right, and left surround and right surround. So if you need a sound that needs to be able to move in any one of your speakers and all in real time, controlled by the game, and it needs to be able to spin around you and move all over the place, then that sound needs to be mono. So mono music is not all that great, but mono is all used mostly for sound effects. Stereo music. This is, of course, where we are most comfortable in most common formats. Oh, excuse me, hold on a sec. Oh, pardon me. Most common formats. Music has been stereo for a very long time, and if it's one of the discussions you need to have with your developer in the beginning, with your the client, is what format do you need your files in? What format do you want me to deliver stereo music? Do you need split files or interleaved files? And if they look at you funny because they have no idea what you're talking about, they want interleaved files. And an interleaved file is a single file with two channels in it. That's what we mostly think of as a stereo file with just one file. Split files, you also have the opportunity to create a split stereo file out of your DAW, and that is two mono files, one for .L, one for .R, one for left channel, one for right channel. And sometimes this is useful in a game if your sound sources need to come from two separate places. Like you have two speakers in a game and the character needs to walk up to one of them and the left channel gets louder, and then walk up to the other one and the right channel gets louder. So that can be useful sometimes, but mostly you're going to use an interleaved file. Dual mono. Most of the time, dual mono is a mistake. You probably don't want to bounce your files out in dual mono because it's really just kind of wasting file size. Dual mono is the same thing bounced in both left and right channels. We hear it and we perceive it as mono, but it takes up two channels and takes up twice the file size. You could get the same effect by just having a mono file. The only reason I can come up with that you would maybe use dual mono is your sound is mono and your game only accepts stereo files for whatever reason. Then if you need to fake a stereo file, you can put the same thing in both left channel and right channel. And actually, it's not a stereo file. It's a two-channel file with mono information with the same thing in both left and right. So most of the time, it's not recommended, but it is still something to consider. And then multi-channel music. Multi-channel music is really not that common in production overall. Multi-channel surround sound has not taken off. Again, most music is released in stereo. The problem with multi-channel music is that you need to sit still to listen to it. And most people don't sit still to listen to music. You don't just sit there and sit on your couch and just listen to music. I mean, you might, but a lot of the general public is doing something when they're listening to music. They're exercising or cleaning their house or running around and dancing, and they don't just sit in one spot. The reason that multi-channel movies work and multi-channel games work is that you have to sit there and watch the image on the screen to be able to hear everything or to experience everything. Excuse me. So even then, the music isn't like swirling around you all over the place. It's not like the guitar solo is bouncing off all of the different speakers. Most music that's in a surround mix is still stereo, a lot of times with some reverb that goes to the rear speakers so that it kind of envelops you a little bit more, gives you a sense of the space of the music. But 5.1 music is really not all that common. The surround mix that you hear in a game is a whole bunch of mono files being panned all over the place to create that mix that's then reacting with you spinning in a circle. So a multi-channel file, if you have music that's given to you or you create a 5.1 audio file, then it can't be panned after the fact. It's already something for left, already something for right, left surround, right surround, the center, and the subwoofer. It can't move around. So now multi-channel in cutscenes, like when it's a movie, may be a little bit more common because you have complete control. But once you have real-time gameplay, multi-channel is not very useful overall. needs to be created. Now you do hear a surround mix, but it's created from a whole bunch of mono sound effects with a stereo mix going on, and then just panned correctly with the speakers and environmental effects placed on it. Now, one other way of thinking of multi-channel music is, again, separating it from surround sound. Multi-channel doesn't always mean surround sound. A multi-channel file, well, surround sound exists on a multi-channel file that's 6 channels. You have left front, center, right front, left surround, right surround, and the subwoofer. 6 channels, but instead of thinking of it as 6-channel a 6-channel surround sound file, you can think about it as 3 stereo pairs. So it's still just 6 channels. Instead, we can put 3 stereo pairs on there and do a very simple music system, interactive music system. If you could put your low intensity music on channels 1 and 2, your medium intensity music on channels 3 and 4, and your high intensity music on channels 5 and 6, and then to get the correct mix that you want to go from low to mid to high intensity, all you need to do is pan to the correct set of channels. So I know that the mobile devices like the iPhone can play up to 10 channel files. Well, you're not doing 10 channels of surround sound out of your phone, but you still have the ability of playing up to 10 channel files so that the game can keep all of these tracks in perfect sync, and then all you have to do is pan to the right channels to hear what you want. So just another way overall of thinking about multi-channel files. Multi-channel doesn't always mean surround sound. It just means more than one audio channel. And you can do with those audio channels as you see fit. All right, so let's get into our last topic here, and probably one of the more important topics of the month. Okay, all that stuff is fine and good, but how do I actually get a job with all of this? How do I get involved? One of the big purposes of this class is to introduce you to this side of the industry and give you a sense of whether or not you are interested in working on these game projects. Some people get into all of the different layers of music and different music cues and how it switches and rearranges and all the technology. And they're like, no thanks, don't want to be involved with all of that. And that's just as viable because it gives you a sense that maybe it might not be appropriate for you, but a lot of folks get in all of this and they're like, wow, this is really cool material and cool ideas and different ways of thinking about creating music. And so how do you take all of these ideas and apply them beyond the class? So we're going to talk about a lot of different approaches, different resources and websites, and a lot of this is just general to being a freelance music person on out there in the current industry. So yes, I'll put it in terms of the game industry as a whole, but it's really, they're very common approaches for all of you, whatever part of the industry you want to enter. Hold on, let me take another quick pause. All right, so the first one here is actually probably the most important, and that is having a strong online presence. Through the magic of the internet, you don't actually have to live in the central production hub or the traditional hubs of entertainment that were out there. The coasts, or New York, or LA, or Nashville, or Atlanta, or Austin, Texas, or Redmond, Washington, or wherever game production is these days. You don't have to live directly there. And through the wonderful thing called the internet, you can find clients and network with folks and get involved in the industry and show off what you're capable of doing. So this actually through an online degree program, you have had to do this kind of all the way through, which is understanding how to communicate online, how to deliver assets and projects, and how to communicate, how to interact. So, having a professional email address, website, portfolio or demo reel, a blog site, and professional forward-facing social media is a great set of tools to have. You might have some crazy email address or some wild pictures on your social media, and you may not want to share all of that stuff. That has a nasty habit of lingering with you. And so who knows what you have on all of your private stuff, and that's perfectly fine because it's yours and private. But having an outward professional facing email address and website and social media that you can share with anybody and everybody and have no issue with it is a very, very good tool to have. So because you could be the best composer out there and you're in the middle of nowhere and nobody's ever heard of you, and nobody knows that your music is amazing because you don't network or you don't share with anybody. All of the skills that you are learning all the way through this degree program should be the fun and easy part of actually working. I mean, if it's a challenge or a drag to actually be in your DAW composing music, then you're going to have a really, really difficult time because the more challenging aspect of all of that is becoming a successful business and keeping the lights on and keeping the bills paid and finding and networking with folks to get all of the projects to support you. So that becomes a much more challenging aspect when once you have the project and you're sitting there in the studio working. That should be the fun and easy part, that where you actually want to be. So one of the best tools to have to show off your work is, of course, your demo reel or a portfolio. This could be hosted in all sorts of different ways, but it really should be one central place for people to find out all of your music and check out all that you have to offer. So it should just be links that people can click. Everybody is lazy on the internet, so they just want to click on a link and watch and listen to something and have easy access to something that's really, really cool. So you want to be able to show off what you're capable of doing. You really need to grab somebody's attention in 10 or 15 seconds so that they keep watching, and then kind of wrap it all up in about 60 seconds in just a video demo reel of something. And what I find is having lots of little pieces of stuff is a lot better than having one big long video or demo reel or whatever it is. So having lots of couple of seconds or 30 seconds or a minute long little chunks of cool things will keep people just clicking through what you have to offer. So there's a lot of resources out there. Having your own website set up, having it all hosted easily, audio and video is going to be best because nobody knows what you're capable of doing. Nobody's going to hire you unless you have, they can actually see that you're capable of doing the work. Social media is some of the is the best and worst technology invented of the recent times, right? It's probably the most impressive means of human communication that's been put out there, and it can be used for all sorts of good and evil purposes. But we, of course, want to use it for our own good purposes, and it can be extremely valuable for networking and finding out stuff in the industry. So give me a heads up in the chat. Do you guys have Facebook pages? Probably. Everybody's grandmother and little kid and their dog has a Facebook page. Twitter accounts, LinkedIn accounts, all of that stuff is extremely valuable in lots of different ways. And again, having professional versions excuse me, that you can show off is going to be the best way of going about it. So Twitter is probably the main resource that I use to find out information of what's going on and keeping up with what is happening in the industry. uh, one of the problems with Twitter is you have to know who to follow, right? Over time, you find people and you find people to follow, and but one of the better resources that I found is to follow hashtags, and you can just search, go into Google and type in hashtag game audio, or you can set up particular lists on if you have different Twitter applications. And you can just search and follow a hashtag, and hashtag game audio has tons and tons of stuff with all sorts of people involved in the industry with very, very cool people. This guy runs a game audio podcast. Nicholas Furnell is an awesome audio programmer person. I know that this picture is from Mark Kilborn. He's the audio director with Raven Software, working on Call of Duty. He's a Full Sail graduate because I follow him and keep up with what's going on. What else? Designing Sound is an awesome game website, and Game Audio 101 is another one. We'll talk about those sites. Kenneth Young is a really cool audio designer. This is a great video I watched recently of his work on games. I don't know. Just great resources of all sorts of stuff. You just keep up watching this over the days and weeks and months, and you'll find all sorts of great information. What else? Job offers. I don't know. It's always fun to just scroll through here, constantly paying attention to what's going on there. So Twitter is great. Follow folks. You can find who some cool people are in the industry by following hashtag game audio. Follow me at Engine Audio. And I post up all sorts of crazy stuff. What else? LinkedIn. LinkedIn is a great resource. It's kind of like your resume online. And actually, hold on. Do something here. Let me get Safari back. One of the cool things with LinkedIn is that you can search out companies and do a little bit of reconnaissance on job offers. So if you see jobs posted up on Facebook or on Twitter, then you can kind of do a little bit more research on those companies and those possibilities. Hold on. Doing two things at once. Oh, look at that. Game music composition. Sorry. I'll come back here. Oh well. So what you can do with LinkedIn is you can search for particular jobs and companies. You can search for different. Sorry, I'm getting distracted over here trying to find the next thing I'm about to talk about. There we go. Okay. All done. So you find a company that is offering the job, and then you go on LinkedIn, and there's an advanced search page, and you can type in that company, and you can type in audio and sound and music, and find all of the people that are on the sound team at a particular game company. You can also type in hiring or human resources and find the hiring managers at those companies. You can also search a company by school. So you can go to a particular company that's offering a job and search for Full Sail University and see if there's any Full Sail grads working at that particular game company. And so you can find all sorts of resources of people, do a little bit of investigation on the company and research on the job, and get a lot more information. So you can connect with people on Twitter and LinkedIn and Facebook, and it's one thing that you can connect and then you can message them directly. But probably even more important than that is that you're on their feed. If you're friends with them or you like them or follow them or whatever it is, then if you're constantly posting up cool stuff online, people notice that as they look through their feeds on all these websites. They're like, oh, I don't know who that person is, but that's a really cool picture or a really cool post or a really cool tutorial or tip or whatever it is, and they start recognizing people online. The game audio community is really quite small overall, and if you're interested in getting involved just by putting out good stuff and just communicating online, you can find a lot of different opportunities. Facebook is all sorts of crazy, and there's all sorts of different resources, but I did create a Facebook page for this class. So go ahead and follow that to find game music composition online. And I'm posting up all sorts of cool game audio articles and things like that. So, there's these very cool free libraries of medieval weapons. And this free firearm sound effects library is a large resource of free weapon sounds, which is really cool. So, follow right along with that. Oh, look, people are liking things. Yay. Look how amazing that is that you're on the other side of this network conversation and my Facebook tells me that you hit like. That's cool. Anyway, what else? So, LinkedIn, Facebook, Twitter, all sorts of good resources. Some other cool web pages. Game Dev Map. Let me go ahead and bring these up here. Game Dev Map. If you are interested in going someplace in the States or in the world and you want to know what studios are there, like if you're interested in moving to Los Angeles, you could see all of the different game companies that are there, which is a very long list. Or if you are interested in moving to, what is this over here? Hello? What happened? Fine, what is this one? I like to click on random places around the world and see. If you wanted to live in the Canary Islands, or you wanted to live in Japan, you could find all the different game companies. What about Sydney? Or Brisbane, right? Or if you wanted to live in Austin, Texas, there's tons of game companies there. But it's a really good resource for, hey, I want to move to this place and I wonder what game companies are there. Then this is what I would do is I'd click on every single one of them and go find their jobs page and bookmark their jobs page. I do this for all my favorite game companies. I just bookmark. I have like a folder filled with 50 different bookmarked companies. And every couple of weeks, I just go look at it for new game opportunities. There's another one called GameAudio101.com. And they have a game audio jobs page. And you can look at all of these different job opportunities. Let's see. Intern co-op sound designer. That's kind of cool. Sound designer for Blizzard. That's kind of cool. Senior sound designer at Sledgehammer Games. Sound designer, technical sound designer temp, sound designer. This is why sound design skills are kind of handy to have, because there's often a lot of possibilities there. Slot game composer wanted. That's awesome. Did you know that all slots are in the key of C or in A minor? So that when you walk into a casino, it's not all this dissonant, horrible noise. The industry is kind of determined that everything's going to be in C major. And it all makes it sound pretty when it all plays together. So current students, you can go work for Zynga, who does all sorts of mobile games. Or you could go work for Blizzard. The best thing to do is, as you find all of these, just look at what they want. And if you don't have those skills, then go figure them out. Experiences from Mike to DAW. Excellent sound editing design skills. Strong communication skills. creative sensibilities, game audio implementation using the Unity or game engine, tools such as Fmod and Wise. Wow, it's like all the stuff that we... Yes, our internships are paid. Holy cow. Look at that. Destruction and debris, creatures and alien beings, spells and special powers. You have me at hello. Yes. All of these cool things. Sledgehammer Games. Real time. College degree preferred. Temp jobs. I don't know. Slot game composer. A large number of high quality samples and virtual instruments such as native instrument complete. I don't recognize that. Oh, complete ultimate. Ooh. Music composition for 2 years. So anyway, constantly looking around at job opportunities. I wouldn't even look at even senior sound positions. And just check out, okay, maybe I don't have all those skills now, but what do I need to continue on in the industry? Always really great opportunities. Sorry, I'm looking at the chat now. I'll try Blizzard. What? Sorry, I stopped away, but Blizzard, what? There's job opportunities. Yes. Jobs. Yes, I find that's one of the reasons that I kind of navigated over to the game industry. I found so much more opportunity. If I could just build my skills to do what they wanted, to do as they asked, then you just find a lot of resources out there because there's so much movement in the game industry. What was this other one? Designing Sound. Designingsound.org. You're not going to find any jobs here, but it's a great resource of all sorts of audio games, sound design, movies, just all sorts of stuff. This is a great series. Everybody plays Star Wars Battlefront, which is very, very fun, although it's about this deep with content, unfortunately. But a great sound series on how they created all of the really cool sound effects. What else? Game Audio Forum. This has kind of died a little bit compared. Now most people are on social media in different places. So, ModDB. The cool thing, of course, we already talked about ModDB and IndieDB. ModDB, IndieDB. But they have jobs pages too. They have a jobs, and every once in a while you'll find some audio gigs on here. Most of these are going to be free projects and small projects to get involved with. But it's great. Again, it's great resources to get some jobs under your belt, some credits in your corner. IndieDB has a couple of more, but they're often the same jobs. Like you probably just see the same horror thing over here. So. But every once in a while you can find resources on those sites also. So just the best thing to do is get out and get involved in a game team. Earlier on, finding game projects that you can just be involved with and learn how things work, learn how things are function in the game, and learn how to work together with other folks. The game I'm currently working on, we actually found it through IndieDB, and that was like project started in 2010 and then really didn't pick up till like 2012, 2013, and we've been working on it for quite a while. But paid gig all the way through. And the team is all over the place, right? The main team is in New Zealand. There are artists and level designers in the UK. We're on the East Coast in Orlando. Another producer of the game is in Virginia. We've had people in South America as more content creators. Some of the main artists are in the Pacific Northwest. So we have people all over the world, and time zones are a nightmare to keep everybody on schedule. But through Skype and through online internet tools, we can produce a commercial game on everybody's schedule. So you don't have to live in the center of production anymore. Sometimes it can still help to be in a physical place and shake hands and go out and meet and greet and all that. But you can also do a lot of that online. So we're going to wrap it up at that point. The purpose of the month overall, hopefully you've learned a great deal and kind of gotten a sense of what goes on in the industry and the role of a music composer, and want to get involved and can maybe use some of these ideas and these resources to get started with all of that. So to wrap out the month, I'm going to finish out the grades for week 3, and want to I'll get those posted up here today. We'll get everything done through the weekend for the week 4 assignments, but that will wrap us up for the month overall. So if you have any questions, stick around. You can certainly address those, or get in contact with me after the month, or hopefully you guys have the opportunity to come down for graduation where you can meet in person and can shake your hand and say congrats. But overall, thanks very much. It was always a fun month, and yeah, keep in touch overall. So have a good one, and we'll talk soon. Thanks.